Do you want to have a little listen to who is the new enemies of the people? You remember the old editor of the Daily Mail put High Court judges on the list, so we can put High Court judges. That's not really lefty lawyers they've had a crack at as well. All of these, none of them are as big as the big three, are they? Immigrants, the EU and the unemployed. If you can't have one of them in the firing line, what on earth are you going to do as a Conservative Prime Minister to fire up the base? Have a listen.
I will not allow the anti-growth coalition to hold us back.
Don't know what that is yet, but I'm going to clap anyway because, it's conference.
Labour, the Lib Dems, the SNP, the militant unions, the vested interests dressed up as think tanks, the talking heads, the Brexit deniers, Extinction Rebellion, and some of the people we had in the hall earlier.
Talking heads, Brexit deniers. What's a Brexit denier?
The fact is...
Hang on, the fact is... What was the last one? Exile. Labour.
They prefer protesting to doing.
Who do?
They prefer talking on Twitter to taking tough decisions.
I've seen this speech on Twitter.
They taxi from North London townhouses to the BBC studio to dismiss anyone challenging the status quo.
Who is she talking about there specifically? North London townhouses, down with that sort of thing, to BBC studios.
From broadcast to podcast,
hello,
they peddle the same old answers.
Hey?
It's always more taxes,
no, don't clap.
More regulation and more meddling.
Has anyone ever come across a podcast calling for more taxes?
Wrong.
Have you ever come across a podcast calling for more taxes? Should we do that again? Should we try that again? The phone lines are open, by the way. Is this going to work, is the question. I genuinely don't know. I hope not, obviously, but I hope that all the previous ones wouldn't work. I hope that all the lies about the European Union wouldn't work, but they did, and we left it. I hope that all the lies about immigrants wouldn't work, but they did, and they left. I hope that all the lies about unemployed people wouldn't work, but they did, and our welfare state got absolutely kebabbed under so-called austerity. So 0345 60 973 is the number you need to answer the question of whether or not this is going to work. Let's just run through it again because I got a bit lost. Did she mention Hugh Grant? Oh no, High Court. Sorry, I can't read my own writing. High Court judges. I don't think they got a mention. So here it is. Here are the new, get your tenses right, O'Brien. Here are the new enemies of the people.
I will not allow the anti-growth coalition to hold us back.
OK, right, Reverend, pay attention now. Let's get all this written down. Who's in it, Liz? Who's in the anti-growth coalition? In your own time.
Labour, the Lib Dems, the SNP.
Well, that's everyone else.
The militant unions.
Militant unions.
The vested interests dressed up as think tanks.
But Downing Street's full of
talking
people
heads,
from
the
think tanks.
Brexit deniers, Extinction Rebellion, and some of the people we had in the hall earlier.
Brexit deniers. Two very pleasant-looking ladies who held up a banner about fracking. Down with that sort of thing. OK, what's the fact?
They prefer protesting to doing. They prefer talking on Twitter to taking tough decisions. They taxi from North London townhouses to the BBC studio to dismiss anyone challenging the status quo.
12 years in power, you are the status quo, aren't you? Aren't you, though? No?
From broadcast to podcast,
that's me.
They peddle the same old answers. It's always
just never
more
listen
taxes,
to Mystery Hour.
More regulation and more meddling.
More taxes, more regulation and more meddling.
Wrong. Is it going to work?
0345 60 973. And who does she like? So we've got Labour, the Liberal Democrats and the SNP. She sat in a cabinet, of course, that was in coalition with the Liberal Democrats, and indeed she used to be in it, didn't she? She used to be in the Liberal Democrats back when she was calling for the monarchy to be abolished. So all politicians except... you can't say except the Conservatives, because quite a lot of the Conservatives have turned on her as well and are objecting to quite a lot of her policies. So just most politicians, almost all politicians? It's probably quite a popular line, that, until you remember that she is one herself. Militant unions... Well, that just means unions that have some sort of agency, does it? Militant. How can you tell whether a union is militant or not? Answer, well, can it take meaningful action? to protect its members' rights. Yes, it can. Oh, it's militant then. Talking heads. I take that a bit personally, actually. I've got to be honest with you. Do you think she's talking about me, Keith? No? She doesn't know who I am, he said. Talking heads, podcasts and broadcasts. Come on, I don't live in North London, but I've got a house. Is it a townhouse? I don't know. What's a townhouse? North London townhouses. Why is that a pejorative? What is it about North London that is supposed to upset the audience at the Conservative Party conference in Birmingham? Is she going to boycott the BBC now? I didn't understand that. Or is she just not going to get a car when she goes there? She'll go on a pogo stick or something. Broadcast and podcast. More tax. Where are these podcasts calling for more taxes, more meddling and more regulation? I haven't heard any. I haven't heard any of them. I'm listening to a very good podcast at the moment, Gabriel Gatehouse, looking into the origins of the January the 6th coup attempt in America and the whole QAnon thing. I'm pretty sure he hasn't called for any higher taxes. Have you been listening to the new podcast News Agents with Emily and John and Lewis? It's very, very good, but I haven't heard it calling for more meddling yet. Where are these podcasts that are calling for more meddling, do you think, or more taxes or more regulation? The two protesters in Birmingham were almost in twin set and pearls. They'd clearly dressed very much for the role. Like geniuses, they had two banners. So some bozo comes along and rips the first banner out of their hand, and cool as you like, they just took another banner out. Very calm, very measured. They were just reminding Liz Truss that in 2019 she campaigned on a manifesto that pledged there wouldn't be any fracking anywhere in this country without local approval. And they seem to be reverse ferreting from that position. So put on the list people who remind Tories of their own manifesto reminders, down with that sort of thing. What's a Brexit denier, do you think? Someone who says that Brexit hasn't happened yet? They're not generally in the category of people that the rest of this list includes, are they? People who say that Brexit hasn't happened yet, there hasn't been a real Brexit. My unicorn hasn't arrived. For example, I don't know. What would a Brexit denier? What is a Brexit denier? There has been no Brexit? I don't understand, but anyway, down with them. Twitter, I told you why they hate Twitter. They hate Twitter because they can't control it. I think it really is that simple. And because relatively articulate people who are not sponsored by press barons can achieve quite high followings, quite large followings. You'd be amazed what sort of Flotsam and Jetsam have got up to 1 million followers in recent weeks. Broadcasts and podcasts. So down with words, is it? Words? People who speak? Talking heads? People who speak? The think tanks, Downing Street is full of people from think tanks. The ones that I think she likes are the ones that are secretly funded, right? So down with think tanks who have transparent funding. We don't want any of that sort of thing. So, right, Labour, Lib Dems, SNP, unions, people who talk, Brexit deniers, Extinction Rebellion, people who remind Conservatives about the contents of the last Conservative manifesto, people on Twitter, but not obviously the people on Twitter who are Conservatives, like Liz Truss, people who appear on the BBC, but obviously not including Liz Truss and other Conservative politicians, people with broadcasts and podcasts about more taxes, more regulation and more meddling, i.e. nobody, so she just must have a problem with podcasts in general. It's probably because she's the only person in the country that hasn't got one. Even Sadiq Khan's got one now. Clear the air. Well worth a listen. And that's all. Is that everything, do you think? So here's the plan. I will persuade the British people that most of the politicians, the unions, everyone on the telly, Brexit deniers, environmental campaigners, people who remind Conservatives of the contents of their last manifesto, people with too many followers on Twitter, people who appear on the BBC, people with podcasts or jobs in broadcasting. She didn't mention newspaper journalists. I wonder why that would be. And people who want higher taxes, higher regulation and higher meddling. No, I don't think anyone's ever campaigned on a more meddling ticket. I don't think it would work. What do we want? More meddling. When do we want it now? I can't quite see that kicking off. All of those things are supposed to enrage your Daily Mail reading dad. Okay? Do you think it's going to work?